Thanks, everyone, for joining us for the Demystifying Money podcast. I'm your host, Misty Lynch, and I'm excited to continue a conversation that I've been having with Shari Rash, who is a no BS money expert, certified financial planner, and host of the acclaimed Everyone's Talking Money podcast. Shari, thanks for coming on my show today to talk about your insights when it comes to money and mindset.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on the other side of the microphone.
This episode of Demystifying Money with Misty Lynch is proudly sponsored by Soundview Financial Advisors. Visit www.soundviewfinancialadvisors.com to learn more.
You're interviewing a lot of people. Tell me now, you have over 1,300 episodes of your podcast now. I'd love to hear from you because you talk to people about money, you get to the point. What are some of the things that you notice are some common themes that are coming up when it comes to your clients or people you talk to when it comes to really opening up about money shame and why it's really important for us to get more comfortable doing that?
Many people, we don't realize how money it plays a role in our lives. Like we just think of money as accumulating it, our investments, our retirement, paying bills, whatever. But we don't realize how money, we can't do anything without money, right? That it's what makes the world go round. And so many people have a negative relationship with money, and we don't realize how much subconsciously that affects us. Mm-hmm. Like if you don't like money or if you don't have a good relationship with it, and just stuff as simple as swiping your credit card at the grocery store, like opening up your banking app is a dreadful act. And that's terrible. Like that's a terrible way to live. And there is so much shame around money. And it's just like our personalities. We have these quirks, if you will, to our personalities. And a lot of it is just who we are, the way we are raised. Money's no different. And so many people think that like the way they think about money is right, or like everyone thinks that way. And no one's right or wrong, but there are so many different ways that we think about money. So understanding the way you think about money is just so important, especially if it's a negative relationship.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how, money, you're right. We can't avoid it. Everybody, we think we use it every day. There's really no way that you can just like pretend that it doesn't exist or like kick it out of your life. But I'm noticing that people do have very strong opinions about money. I know we just saw Jeff Bezos had a wedding that cost an extraordinary amount of money, able to rent out an entire city. And the things that I'm hearing people say about how much that bothers them and makes them angry, it really does make me think a little bit about like our thoughts about, money and what people should or shouldn't do. Like this is, obviously I think a lot of people who have these comments are, they shop at Amazon and they use it. But what are your thoughts there when you see people that really like get upset about the way other people have wealth, spend their wealth? Where do you think that really comes from, or what does that tie back to?
It's funny you say that because, of course, I go down the rabbit hole and read all of the comments of everyone online. And
Mm-hmm.
one woman was like, he should be donating his money instead of spending it like this. And then, I do not condone arguing with strangers on the internet, but this other person engaged and was like, well, he does donate his money and he started Amazon in his garage and built it to this. Like, who are you to say how he should spend his money? And he is doing those things you said, so that's not good enough. And yeah, it really comes from like, and I the person even said in so many words, like, this is your comment's more of a reflection on you than it is on him. Mm-hmm. So like figure out your own stuff first before you start projecting it on Jeff Bezos and how he spends his money. But it really is, it's like, well, what the way you think about it and having more money just enhances who you are as a person, right? Like it doesn't change you. It just makes you like it just puts more of a spotlight on it. Like if you're super philanthropic without money, you're likely when you have more money, you're going to be more philanthropic. Mm-hmm. If you were a spender before it, when you have more money, you're going to more spending. So it's so expecting someone to do something with their money that isn't who they are or what is not fair. That's your own stuff that you're putting on them.
It's interesting though, because everybody seems to have a take on things. But you're right. A lot of people are like, he should be doing this. And they're saying, all these shoulds and all of these judgments. But you wonder, like, how much of that are you doing with your money? Well, I don't have enough money to be generous. And okay, and you think, like, is money going to necessarily change? You're like, what's the tipping point? How much money would it take for you to actually be more philanthropic or generous, or do you donate your time at all now? So I love that your point about it kind of just enhances who you already are. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go from a good person to a bad person or a bad person to a good person. If you're Dolly Parton with no money, you're going to be generous and share it. And with Dolly Parton with a lot of money, you're probably going to be funding a lot of things and helping people. And, so really, it's really interesting, though, how we get so upset and so fired up about it. But I think that I think there's a lot of things that get in our way when it comes to being, either financially literate or comfortable. And you talk about uneffing your finances a lot. And so I'm curious, what does that phrase really mean to you? And what do you think the first step in that process is if somebody is really just a hot mess when it comes to their finances and they don't know where to start?
Yeah, so that's a little bit, that's just to say, let's like remove the junk, like just like clean out like the gunky drain of thinking about money. Like stop putting our emotions on it because money is just a tool. It's a tool to do things, tool to achieve things, whatever you want to do, you need money to do it, right? So get uneffing yourself with money is just getting rid of the junk and looking at money for what it is, a tool to achieve something. That achieving something could be just going to the grocery store, right? It doesn't have to be these big, grandiose ideas or plans. It can just be something as simple as, paying for stuff, living. But we tie our emotions to money. And that's where we get ourselves into trouble is that we give money way more credit than it deserves as far as its impact that it has on us. So that's really what the show strives to achieve is to show you, hey, there's so many aspects of your life that money affects, right? And I'll have people on the show that have nothing to do with money. But then I just interviewed Stephanie Sefrin from Sustainable Minimalists, and she does not outwardly I do not have a good relationship with money,
Mhm.
but we talked about how minimalism and money kind of go together, like
Yeah.
your stuff and your money, it really goes together, how we put our emotions on our stuff or our space, and you do the same with your money. So the show really strives to show you money's an aspect in all of our lives, but if we remove the gunk of it and remove the shame or the negative opinions that we have, we can really just look at it for what it is, a tool to do awesome things and live.
I like you shared something. I was looking on your social media and it was about, I think it was just a short clip about like children and like looking for those teachable moments when it's like everything is a teachable moment. And I think that's something that we do with money. We think it has to be like the perfect scenario or the right time to like have these conversations. It's really just we're probably avoiding it because we feel like it's awkward or we're not able to talk about it. But I mean, we're dealing with money every single day. There's really not many times that you can't like you said go to the store or you can look at your statement, you can do certain things to like start to move forward when it comes to like that fear or all that anxiety around money, or you can have these conversations without having it be like a forget it, money doesn't grow on trees, like terrible shut it down immediately type of conversation. I think it's so important that we start having a little bit more, I think yeah, just a little bit more calm, a little bit more less anxiety, less emotions when you talk about money and really just look at it like the tool that it is. So I love that you're sharing all of those stories. What are some of the common money myths that you help work to dismantle that you see more frequently than others?
Well, one, money isn't bad. It
Mm,
just is. It's not good or bad. It just is. Your bank account statement, your net worth is no reflection on you as a person. It's a number. And the number isn't good or bad. It just is, right? And I think that that's one of the drums that I beat a lot is that your net worth is not equal to your self-worth. And you really need to sit down and identify why are we attaching negative feelings to these numbers? And again, that comes from your own stuff that you're
Mhm.
dealing with. And you have to acknowledge that stuff and realize that stuff. And so that's one of the biggest things that I'm trying to undo is just removing the emotion from money. It makes the world go round. We have to use it all the time, every day. Just and also just changing the phrases that we use about money. Just small things like instead of I can't afford that, I'm choosing not to spend my money on that.
Mhm.
Right? And you made the comment before about, well, someone should be more philanthropic. It's like, well, what would you do if you had $100 more
Mhm.
come in? What would you do with it? And choose where you're choosing to spend your money.
Mhm.
So everything's a choice. So instead of your money controlling you, you're controlling it. We just give way too much power to this
Mhm.
thing that should not have this power over us. We
Yeah.
need to have the power over it.
That's definitely some that even just the change in language or saying I choose or this is not a priority for me. Like all of these things that put you more in the driver's seat versus I can't afford that or that's too expensive or we don't have that kind of money or things like that that people have probably heard over and over again or think in their mind all the time, oh, if I had money, it must be nice. All of those things that they say
Mhm.
on loop. Um, I think it is important to think, okay, what if you really got down to what you want to do? What are you doing to help get there and see if you're kind of holding yourself back and just using those, that thought loop to keep you down. I'm curious though, as somebody who's also a CFP and someone who's like trauma informed, where do we sometimes get stuck when it comes to maybe things that have happened to us financially in the past or really negative feelings that we have about money or maybe scary situations? What happens when you come across that with people, that really maybe need to do a little bit more work that they blame money, but there might be a lot more there. What would you suggest for somebody in that situation?
I mean, it's just like when we have issues as an adult, like
Hmm.
therapy, talking about it, acknowledging it, realizing that you, it may not, you may have a just because it's like I said, there's no right or wrong when it
Hmm.
comes to money, but there is healthy and unhealthy,
Yeah.
right? Or the way we think about it. So really working through it and sitting there and for something that we use every day and it's so important to us, we rarely sit there and like think about our relationship with
Hmm.
money. So for someone that is like stuck in it, I a couple questions that I ask people is when I say the word money, what do you think of? And like what words come to mind? And if it's like stress, responsibility, burden, that we're
Hmm.
going in a direction of what you think about money, right? It's pointing you in a direction. Also, what's your first money memory? And this may not necessarily be like your first, but if it's like the one that comes to your mind right away,
Hmm.
that really tells you what how you define money or how your brain is wired. If it was, well, I heard my parents arguing about money, telling us we can't afford things, whatever it is, like someone a kid at school making fun of me because of the clothes I wore, whatever it is, that again shapes your relationship with money and you really have to work through it. And I mentioned therapy, but it could also just be journaling or,
Hmm.
using prompts to work, but you really have to work through it and acknowledge it and like sit in it for a second and go, "Oh, like and how this could have contributed to your relationship with money throughout your life."
Mm.
If you grew up with parents who argued about money, you may never feel like you have enough, right? So you become what I call a money hoarder.
Hmm.
So looking at what your relationship with money is and really how it has stemmed through some of these, you know, points in your life, because that's what we can look back to.
Yeah, I think, and those are really good questions to ask. I think a lot of times we just don't reflect. We really don't think about why we're thinking these things automatically, why that's our go-to response. I think that in sometimes it's just not asking the right questions, even if it's to yourself and it's journaling. I think you can do a lot of work, kind of identifying, like, yeah, if I had an extra $100, where would it go? Like maybe you don't have it yet, but like, what would you do with it? Or if you had $1 million, what would you do with it? And like, I think that people can start to, um, really uncover maybe certain things that they're not thinking or realize like, oh yeah, that does sound a lot like mom. not like me. And so that's so important. Can you share any moments that you've had with a client or a podcast guest where you've had that breakthrough where it's kind of shifted from fear and shame to like either an aha moment or maybe on the path to empowerment?
Yes. So I can identify pretty quickly with a client like what their money personality is. And so often, especially my clients that are nearing retirement, and I have a lot of clients in the LGBT plus community. So women, one, have their own complicated relationship with money because we are told money is taboo to talk about. It's not ladylike to talk about money. Oh, let my husband handle it or let my father handle it. They know everything. They have the spreadsheets. I've heard all of that. But then I have a lot of clients that are female in the LGBT plus community, and it's like they have no resource. They have no idea. They have no one to turn to for help with their money. So I'm helping actually quite a few of my clients right now retire and giving them the permission to retire.
Mm.
It's like I can tell them all day long, the math works. You can do it. Like the math is there, right? Because I'm removing all of my
Hmm.
emotion from it. And then, but they have to be emotionally feel secure enough because they haven't ever felt secure in it.
Hmm.
They likely have kept their finances from their partner separate because they haven't been able to, they weren't able to have joint bank accounts, as spouses,
Yeah.
up until just a few years ago. So there's so many things with it. But I had a client a few weeks ago that retired and we're talking about, well, okay, how do I get my income, and we're figuring it out. And I said, like, you know, I'm you don't need my permission to do this. She's like, you can do, like, you can do this. You don't need my permission. I'm giving you the gold star of approval. Like, I'm telling you everything works.
Hmm.
And she finally said, like, it just, I know I don't, like, I finally can see it. It just feels really good for someone to affirm
Yeah.
that I've done the right things.
Mm.
And so she's like, I'm not asking for permission. The reinforcement feels really good because I've never had it before.
Yeah, that's wow. That's not like to actually admit that
Hmm.
is, because I think other advisors listening, like we've worked with people who, the math looks good and everything looks right. But sometimes, yeah, people might just want to hear like you did a really good job. This is
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly.
Congratulations. And then there are some people, I did one financial plan, I think when I was in corporate there was one time when the person figured out they had enough money and actually got the okay that actually went upstairs and resigned. One time where it happened, like literally, like they just really wanted permission.
I had another client
That was
that
stressful.
I sat down with her and I said, "You can do it."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Okay, I'm doing it
Okay.
next
You're
week."
gonna go do it.
I'm
Yeah.
like, "Okay, like yes."
Literally, they just wanted like one person to like double check the
Yeah.
work and be like, okay,
Yes.
good. But yeah, most of the time it is really like not having that support or not really knowing who to talk to. And I think, a lot of people, I work with a lot of, female business owners and like they're kind of on their own path here. It doesn't look exactly like their moms or maybe their dad's not talking, and so I think it is interesting to see like where do you go for support? And so it is great once people do start, to find the help they need, find the communities, find the shows, the podcast, whatever it is that works for them to have people kind of talking the same language as them and thinking those things because it can feel really isolating and we could feel like we're the only person thinking about these things and clearly we're not. If you asked a whole room of people who feels great about their finances and their money mindset, I don't think you'd get many hands raised. So we all have these thoughts and these feelings, but we all still feel so alone, which is,
Yes.
definitely part of the problem that we're out here trying to fix. But I did want to ask you a question. For people who say they wake up and they're panicked about their money. What is something you recommend they do before they go and pick up their phone, check their bank balance, check their credit, score, all this? What do you think that they should be doing instead?
Sitting for a minute and what are we freaking out about?
Mhm.
Why are we freaking out? Is it because you're comparing yourself to other people around you? You have this, arbitrary number you should have in your bank account, or You're what are we freaking out about? What is this about? And a lot of times it's not about the numbers that we have when you open up your bank account or you look at your 401k statement. A lot of times it's not about the numbers. It's like all this other noise that we have. And
Mhm.
a lot of it's comparison,
Yeah.
comparing ourselves to other people, assuming other people have things that we don't. So that's what it that's and again, that's where we blame money. Like money is the scapegoat on
Mhm.
for this because we're getting mad at our bank account or we're getting mad at our 401k, but when in actuality, it's not money's fault and money's not doing anything wrong. It's
Mhm.
this other stuff going on that we need
Yeah.
to acknowledge.
That's like you mentioned before, and you ask people like how they describe money, if they're like awful, terrifying, pathetic. Like imagine like using those words in any other relationship in your life. Like that would not grow. It wouldn't grow. It wouldn't thrive. It would be a sad relationship if that's really how you like wake up and think when it comes to that. And you're right. It's just there. It's just your checking account. It's just your paycheck, all those things, but the more you put that emotion, those human traits to it, it does it does start to cause some problems. I wondered, you've helped people kind of, especially, and this is something that I feel like is a really difficult thing to jump from, that feeling of just getting by, paying the bills to like wealth and growth and how to build like unapologetic wealth. That is such a difficult transition, I think, for some people to make. Even if the money increases, like the spending increases, the keeping up with all of those things where people, they don't necessarily feel any different, even if their tax bracket changes or their income changes. How do you help people look at, shift that from that kind of just getting by mentality into something that's more long term?
Yeah, again, I mean, well, one, addressing the relationship with your money,
Hmm.
right? And I call those people money hoarders. They
Yeah.
keep on accumulating. They want to accumulate. Some things happen. There's never going to be
Mhm.
enough in the bank account. There's never going to be enough saved. Once they get to that bogey, well, I really need X amount more because that just makes more sense. You're never going to get there. So at first, what does wealth look like? Right? Because it looks different to everyone. Just like, I say to my kids, don't use the word rich. No,
Mhm.
what is rich? Rich is different for everyone. Or my clients will say, how much money do I need to retire? I'm like, we need to figure that out. Like, everyone's different. One person could last a lifetime on what another person has saved. Another person may last 3 years, right?
Mhm.
So we need to figure out what is your lifestyle and where's your money going? Is it going to the best places? Is it going to places that your future self is going to appreciate? So there is some evaluation of where is your money going? If you feel like you're on that hamster wheel and we're never getting ahead, it is a very important first step to look at where is your money going. And that is not me saying stop buying your coffee in the
Yeah.
morning, stop doing that, right? That's no good advice. That only makes us feel bad because that might be the best part of our day. So who am I to take that away from you? But looking at where your money is going. And these are conversations that I've had on my show and I've had with clients of there might just not be enough money coming in. So
Mm.
what can we do about that? And a lot of people have multiple streams of income. They use a genius that their job isn't necessarily using up, and
Mhm.
and they may pursue another passion to
Yeah.
generate some. So and that also does so many wonderful things, brings in more money, obviously, but then also exercises other parts of our brain and gives us
Mhm.
a sense of worth outside of our office or outside of our home. But looking at like where is the money coming from? Do Where is it going? What does wealth mean to you?
Mhm.
Wealth may mean that one person, like, I can just open up my banking app and not freak out and not feel bad. All
Mhm.
right, great. Let's figure out those numbers to not make you feel bad and let's do everything in our power to get you there. So, really understanding what wealth means, I think, is super important also, and not just chasing
Yeah.
numbers.
No, I've definitely experienced that with money hoarder type of personalities where, I've been like, what are we going to do with all this money? And basically, unless the answer is count it, we haven't done enough work to figure out like what wealth really means and what that retirement would look like, what the ideal day would look like if you didn't have to go because I mean, some people like to work and they don't want to, and that's great, but also there's plenty of people who just feel like they have to or they're afraid. And like you said, I think if you can't really define wealth, you're just going to continue doing what feels like the answer sheet.
Mhm.
Get a job, max out your retirement, work, and like not really. And then I feel like sometimes those are the people that transition from retirement, whether it's their choice or not, and really don't know what to do because they haven't spent any time kind of thinking about their life in any other context between, making money, paying the bills, and kind of moving along. So can you can you tell our listeners like how do you define wealth and financial success for yourself personally?
Personally, I define it as being able to do what I want, having the flexibility. We have a similar backstory.
Mhm.
I was on the corporate side of finance and, hit the road. I was working with advisors every day, helping them provide solutions to their clients. And after a while, it was like, I'm tired of that grind. So I made the switch to be an advisor. That was always my intention when
Mhm.
I graduated college was to be an advisor, but no one's giving their life savings to a 22-year-old fresh out of college. So had to make a little bit of a pivot. But then, the voice was always in the back of my head of, Shari, you love what you do, but this wasn't always the goal.
Yeah.
And I have four children, and it was like, well, I need to make a switch. And so wealth to me means being able to go to the beach with my kids during the day and knowing I have income coming in. I know my clients are happy. I'm happy. Where everyone's happy. We can do what we want to do without the fear and the worry of money. I have a very good relationship with money, so I
Mhm.
don't have that negative. Um, and when I think of my first money story, it was a very positive one.
Mhm.
So that I think has really shaped who I am today. So thankfully, I don't have the junk, which
Yeah.
makes me so passionate about helping people get rid of it because it feels really good to not have it, not have that
Yeah.
junk in their head. So that's and having an abundance mentality, like more is going to come. It's okay. Everything's fine. It's all going to work out. More is going to come, and when it comes, I am open to it. And that's really how I wake up every day thinking.
No, I love, and you're one of the only financial advisors I know that like knew they wanted to do this. Like really from the start, which is I think is fantastic because like, I usually it's like we got here
Yeah. Yep.
somehow through, either kind of through the fire, kind of figured it out on our own, or just got really interested in what, but it's interesting. It's great. I think some of us too, and I think that there's some guilt and shame there for some people that have had actually a pretty decent financial upbringing and financial life and comfort and like abundance and not feeling that scarcity. And then I've talked to those people that are like, but my husband has so much student loans and I feel so bad because I don't struggle. And I'm like, why? He doesn't want you to. Like it's not your fault, like all these things that we kind of can carry around. So I love that you have that healthy mindset and you're kind of helping people instead of being like, well, just fix it. Just don't think those things. Think the money's coming. Like there's definitely a lot of work that needs to be done, but they're just thoughts and they're both optional at any given time.
we
So,
can we can check them and we can change them, right? we
yeah.
can we can be aware of way we're thinking and just once you stop and acknowledge and go, oh, this probably isn't the best for me, like you said, like
Mhm.
would I use the word terrible and awful and stressful to describe any relationship you had? Like if you had a friend that you're like, oh, she's terrible and awful and she makes me sad, and it's like, get rid of her, dump her, right?
Yeah.
So it's like we can change, you can
You can
change
fix
it.
that.
You can
Mhm.
change it, but we just have to figure out where it's coming from first.
Yeah.
And we got to attack that because we could fix all the numbers all day
Mhm.
long, but if it never feels good, it never feels right, the job's not done yet.
No, I agree. And I think, yeah, I think a lot of times people think with mindset work, it means jumping from terrible, awful to amazing. And I love it. But it could be, this is, I'm happy this is here today.
It's
That
just neutral.
this
Neutral's
is
good.
just, yeah, like, you
Yes.
know what? It's why isn't it less? Well, I must have made some good decisions. I
That's
must
right.
have
I
done
did
something
something.
right. And
Exactly.
then you can kind of slowly get there. Same with, hopefully you don't have too many toxic friends or people in your life that you're describing that way. But yeah, your money is going to be a long relationship no matter what. You can't avoid it. So I'm curious before we go, there's some emerging money mindset trends, and there's some things I've seen lately. You mentioned you talked to somebody who talked about sustainability. You're talking to a lot of different people. Are there any things that you're seeing lately that feel like are really healthy, good trends that you're liking to see either online or you're hearing people discuss? And then are there some others that are just the tried and true old school rules that you think are worth people paying attention to?
I love a rule of thumb. They
Hmm.
they exist for a reason, right? But we have to take the rules of thumb and put some emotion to it. The problem with most financial advice is that one, men and women speak a very different language when it comes to money. And like going back to my client of me just giving her the permission to
Hmm.
retire and being like the math works, but it was more of an emotional thing.
Yeah.
If her advisor was a male, like she would have probably never retired because he just would have been shoving down her throat, the math works, retire,
Mhm.
whatever, but it didn't
Yeah.
feel right. There was more there. And being that you and I are few
Hmm.
and far between, unfortunately, in the industry,
Hmm.
right? The voices have really always been male.
Yeah.
And when we speak two different languages, it's like a completely different language coming
Mhm.
to us. So I think, and so all the advice that we've been given or what we hear comes from more of the male
It
voice,
does.
which is
Yeah.
stop buying that coffee,
Hmm.
set a budget
Yeah.
and do these things. And it's like, that doesn't like dude, that doesn't work. Like that doesn't work. There's a reason budgets fail for 70% of people. They don't work. So I think blending the rules of thumb, which are correct,
Yeah.
but then bringing the emotional side into it. Here's something very simple. An emergency fund, right? We can Google what our emergency fund should be,
Mhm.
right? Google will tell us 3 to 6 months
Mhm.
of expenses. Okay. So human brain, we go, okay, 3 months or 6 months. What do I want? It's like, no, there's 3, 4, 5, six
Mhm.
months. And when I work with my clients, I'll say, here's what the 3 month number is, and here's what the 6 month number is. Or do we like a number in between?
Yeah.
We're using the math, but then we're using the emotion
Mhm.
because one side feels a number could just feel better.
Yeah.
Or we just like a nice round number. Great,
Mhm.
let's just do a nice round number. Let's do it. Who cares? You know? And so I think that that's what's happening now is that we're taking the math and the robotic side of money
Mhm.
and we're now blending our emotions. And I think that the acknowledgement that money does have an emotion is new, and and it's mostly female
Mhm.
voices that are bringing it out and saying like, okay, how can we take this and make this more emotional to apply but still have the logic attached to it.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting to see that there's so many voices that are like, all of this stuff is great, but
Mhm.
we need to appeal to the emotions too.
Yeah. And I think that's why we do have a lot of people that might come to us and be like, just tell me the answer. And it's like, there's so much more we have to do because, like you said, how much do I need to retire? How much do you spend? How much does it cost to be you? And a lot of people don't know. They're like, oh, I thought the answer was just like 2 million, 4 million, 1 million. And it's like, it could be.
I read an article that said you need $3 million,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
And
that
it's like
article's
it
crap.
absolutely could be. Like, do you have a more, what do you want to do? And like, I
Right.
think that a lot of people don't realize that it is so emotional. There is so much behind it. And you're right. There's some people where I could say, how much money do you want to have in the bank? Like, what feels good to you? And they might be like, boom, $10,000. The rest of it's got to be invested. Someone else might say 50,000, 100. And it's like, they're not right or wrong, but they might just have some idea of what they can go look at, know is there, and feel fine. And then versus, okay, well, let's talk about certain things like wealth and growing the money and opportunity, because I know a lot of people that are sitting on a lot of money in a high yield savings account because they just want to see it safe and sound. But, um, sometimes it is a matter of like getting down to like, why that number? Okay, like let's look at the reports, look at some of the math, but also acknowledging like that's not wrong. It just is. And so I think it's so important to kind of bring that emotional side in instead of more bigger, like what's enough? And like a lot of people really haven't spent some time to think about that. So I love what you're doing. I love the conversations you're having. And I'm so grateful that you had me on your show to talk about this and that we're able to continue the conversation here. If somebody's listening and they're still not quite ready to make a change, what is the one message that you hope out of both of our conversations that they can hear today and maybe reflect on a little bit more?
I think just thinking about the two questions of when you hear the word money, what do you think of? And what's your first money memory? That's going to tell you everything you need to know
Yeah.
of where you are. And even if you're not going to change, sit with where you are and at least acknowledge it. And well, maybe I'm coming from a negative place. Maybe this stemmed from my parents. Maybe this came from my childhood. And just sit in it and acknowledge it and at least know so you understand where you're coming from. I think that's the best way to start improving your relationship with money. Even if you already feel good about it, it can only get better. So that to me is the biggest, the light bulbs that go off when I'm sitting down with people and I ask those questions.
Yeah, I agree. I love those questions. And if you're in a relationship and you don't want to talk about money, I think it's an interesting question to ask somebody like their first memory of money because I mean, I feel like mine and my sister's is different. Like everybody's is so different, but it can kind of provide a little bit of insight about how they might think and feel. And definitely one to ask yourself if you haven't. Because we've all got a story, we've all got things that we can reflect, things we can unlearn, things that we can like kind of hold on to that maybe were really helpful. So thank you so much for joining me. Where can people learn about you and find out more about your work and find your show if they're looking to listen there?
Yes, my show is called Everyone's Talking Money, TALKIN. So you can find me everywhere podcasts are released. And then so you can listen to all the episodes there, 1,300 episodes, all about money mindset and thought leaders. And it's fun. We try to make it as fun as possible. So that's Everyone's Talking Money, or you can learn more about me and how I work with my clients at gwawealth.com.
Thank you so much for joining. I'm so glad that we were able to connect. I feel like we have so much in common. It's so nice to meet another person that is talking about money, helping clients, but also kind of combining both the mindset and the planning, the practical piece of it today. I mean, I wish, I hope there's more of you. Anybody out there that's thinking about this career path, it is wonderful. It is one of the best things that, it's certainly such a rewarding job. It's so interesting. There's so much work that needs to be done, but it was so wonderful to meet you. And if you're looking at your finances and you think it's time to get control of your financial life, or maybe you're contemplating a big decision like retirement or changing jobs or starting a business, head over to mistylynch.com. I'd love to find some time to meet with you. Also, you could catch up on other episodes of the podcast or order a copy of my book, Demystifying Money there. Thank you everyone so much for listening, and we'll talk again next week. Don't forget to share with friends and family, and together let's demystify the world of money. Knowledge is the key to financial empowerment.